Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Certainly. Understanding how a web browser works from an engineering perspective involves diving into various components and processes that take place when you load a web page. Below is an informative tutorial that covers the key aspects of browser architecture, the rendering process, and some code examples to illustrate these concepts. Overview of browser architecture. A modern web browser typically consists of several key components. 1. User interface, UI, the part of the browser where users interact, including the address bar, // buttons, and bookmarks. 2. Browser engine, acts as a bridge between the UI and the rendering engine. It interprets user commands and sends them to the rendering engine. 3. Rendering engine, responsible for displaying the requested content. It processes HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to render the visual representation of web pages. 4. Networking, manages network calls, including HTTP requests and responses. 5. Data storage, handles the storage of cookies, cache, and local storage. 6. JavaScript engine, executes JavaScript code. Popular engines include V8, Chrome, SpiderMonkey, Firefox, and JavaScript Core, Safari. Step-by-step process of loading a web page. 1. URL resolution, when a user enters a URL, the browser processes it, parsing the components, protocol, domain, path, etc. 2. DNS lookup, the browser queries a DNS server to resolve the domain name to an IP address. 3. HTTP request, the browser sends an HTTP request to the server. JavaScript. / example using fetch API to request a resource. Fetch, https://example.com. Then, response equals response.text. Then, data equals console.log, data. 4. Server response, the server responds with the requested resources, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. 5. Rendering process. Parsing HTML, the rendering engine parses the HTML and builds a document object model, DOM, tree. Parsing CSS, CSS is parsed into a CSS object model, XAML, tree. Render tree construction, the DOM and XAML trees are combined to create the render tree, which represents the visual layout of the page. Layout, the browser calculates the size and position of each element. Painting, the browser paints pixels on the screen based on the render tree. JavaScript. / simple example of creating an element and appending it to the DOM. Const new div equals document.createElement, div. New div.innerText equals hello, world. Document.body.appendChild, new div. 6. JavaScript execution, the JavaScript engine executes any JavaScript code found in the HTML or linked files. This may modify the DOM or trigger additional requests. JavaScript. / example of adding an event listener. New div.addEventListener, click, equals. Alert, div clicked. 7. Resource loading, additional resources, images, scripts, style sheets, are fetched as needed, often in parallel to improve performance. Example, building a simple web page. To illustrate the above concepts, let's create a simple web page that displays a message and interacts with user input. HTML, index.html. HTML. Doctype HTML. HTML lang equals n. Head. Meta charset equals UTF-8. Metaname equals viewport content equals width equals device width, Initial scale equals 1.0. Title simple browser example / title. Link rel equals style sheet ref equals styles.css. / head. Body. Div ID equals message hello, world, / div. Button ID equals change message / button. Script src equals script.js / script. / body. / html. CSS, styles.css. CSS. Body. Font family, Arial, sans serif. Text align, center. Margin top, 50 px. Message. Font size, 24 px. Color, blue. JavaScript, script.js. JavaScript. Const message div equals document.getElement by id, message. Const button equals document.getElement by id, change message. Button.addEvent listener, click, equals. Message div.innerText equals you click the button. Message div.style.color equals red, / change text color. Conclusion. In summary, a web browser is a complex piece of software that processes user requests, fetches resources, and renders content. Understanding its architecture and processes is crucial for web developers and engineers. This tutorial provided a high-level overview of how browsers work and a simple example to illustrate the concepts. Further reading. 1. MDN Web Docs, a comprehensive resource for web technologies. 2. Browser internals, explore the internals of browsers like Chrome and Firefox. 3. Web performance, learn about optimizing resource loading and rendering speeds. This tutorial gives you a foundational understanding of how browsers function from an engineering perspective, along with a practical example. Feel free to explore more advanced topics like browser security, caching strategies, and performance optimization.